Once upon a time in a convenience store, a woman asked, "Which zero-calorie drink will I like more?" The cashier said, "I have a thought. Coke Zero Sugar always hits the spot." The taste made her heart fill with laughter, and with her Coke Zero Sugar, she lived happily ever after. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar, unbelievably delicious.
No trip to the store is complete without the unbelievably delicious zero-calorie taste of Coke Zero Sugar.
Dear home, we need a change. We need HomeSense, where one bold piece can change your whole place. Want a new dining set? Chic throw pillows? Game-changing savings mean the answer is yes. HomeSense. This changes everything.
Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net. Christopher Media. Let's make some noise. From Asthmacore Studios near Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, man.
It's the Weedsman Podcast.
I have no idea what's going on.
And now,
you have smoked yourself retarded.
Here are the Weedsmen.
You want to get high?
Welcome back to the Weedsman Podcast. This is episode number 217. My name is Aaron.
I'm Rich.
Rich, thank you very much for joining us today. Rich is standing in for Chris, so I don't have to smoke alone. And just a little housekeeping, obviously, if you're a regular listener, you know that we were away last week, and Chris is got other priorities that have come up, but he will be back. And instead of miss another week, I decided to rope Rich in to help me out here. So thank you very much for joining us.
Not a problem.
If you are familiar with other shows on the Christopher Media Network, such as Unregimented or Sport G, you would have already been familiar, or you are already familiar with Rich's voice. The cat's doing a prairie dog thing over there.
Yeah, I'm sitting here watching. I'm like,
she had a pretty steady beat going with her head there.
I know, right? I felt like grabbing my phone, but I don't have it right here.
Right, we could have looped in some music. Are Vines still a thing?
No,
dang.
They shut down. They shut down a while ago.
We could boomerang it, right? That's a thing that people still do, right?
I guess. I don't know. But it's funny when Vines come out. My buddy was like, "Vine, to hell's a Vine," and another guy at work goes, It's like a 7-second GIF with sound, and he goes, "So a video?" And I'm like,
right.
Yeah, it's a 7-second video on loop, basically.
No, I remember when those were popular for a little while, and I guess the company's name is Vine, or was that the app?
I think that was the app.
Right. Well, they were announcing this like they had invented a whole new way of communication.
It's just a short attention span theater is all it is.
Right. Like, now your GIFs have sound. Like, our videos always had sound, right?
Exactly. It's like a porn. It's like a dial-up porn clip, preview. You get 7 seconds and that's it. You got to loop it on Real Player. That's the only shot you have.
Oh yeah, back in the day, you could get samples that you would download over DSL, and it'd be like a 10-second, really choppy, super pixelated. It looked like Minecraft porn.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking. It's almost as bad as back in the day of watching the squiggly channel going, is it a tit or an elbow?
Yes. In my mind, it's a tit. I almost slipped and let you know my elbow fetish. I secretly prefer them.
Well, it's funny. One cable company.
Have you ever sucked on a weenus?
That band that did Teenage Dirtbag? Is that Weenus or no? That's Wheatus.
Wheatus,
okay.
I don't remember that one.
You know the song, right?
Okay.
You know Teenage Dirtbag.
Keep going. We'll find out.
Oh boy. Anyways, one cable company that when I was a kid and living with my dad, they had a fine tuner on the back of the cable box to where you could tune in channels. And so I figured out how to tune in the scrambled porn channel to where it would hold vertical and horizontal, but it was in black and white. And I was like, that's good enough for me.
Right. On a lot of cable systems that I came across, it was the AB button, right?
Yeah.
Now, I didn't have cable as a kid, and it's not for most of my childhood. So it was like is that the oh yeah, oh this is for a movie. I was like, hey, that's that actor. Oh,
It's the guy that fucked the pie.
Yeah. I don't know, what movie was this for?
Loser or something like that.
What's that chick's name from American Beauty? Do you find her attractive?
Her?
Yeah.
In the
Is it
face, not really, but I'm gonna tell you something. She got the fattest ass.
Oh yeah.
I'm dead serious. If you look up Mira Sorvia or whatever her name is, you see her in like thong pics, like paparazzi thong pics, and I'm like, God damn. And it just proves that what Cheese said in The Wire is true. Midgets got the tightest pussies and the biggest asses.
I don't think I remember this song.
Really?
Yeah. No. Okay. So what was I saying? Scrambled porn. So when you're introduced to cable and this remote with all these new buttons on it, and you're just hitting all of them like this box is going to do something magical.
Sometimes it did.
And one of them was the AB button, and I've never had a cable box that did anything to. Do you know what the AB button is supposed to do?
Switch between sources, but what sources are there?
Yeah, you would think so, but none of them. Well, I think that they build a lot of these things modularly too, for different areas, I guess.
Well, I know
if you ever look at the back of most like commercial cable boxes, they'll have a bunch of non-knocked out panels.
Yeah,
where like other features could have gone in. So it's maybe something like that. But for me, the AB button, I found out in trying to. I think I accidentally hit it because first it was finding out that if you jumped back and forth between channels, it would unscramble just for a sec. It would still be black and white and a little bit shifty, but you could see a clear enough picture to be like, oh, it's that's a vagina. That's where the vagina is
in the general area.
Yeah, right. This is like Cinemax. And accidentally hitting the AB button, probably finding out that just hitting that would kind of toggle it without having to change the channel, so you could, Anyway,
the shit we go through when we're young.
The voice kind of threw me off. That's creepy.
Just to get a nut. Yeah, I know, right? People have been like, "Why is it
these days?"
Who is
they
this
walk
chick?
around it with their fucking pocket.
I know. Like telling my brother about, he's like, porn's not really that big of a deal to me because I grew up with it. I'm like, yeah, I understand that, but you also have to understand that the first time I got dial-up and I could go online and look up any picture of any chick that had been in Playboy once I knew where the site was, I had 20 years of catching up to do. It's going to be a while. And he's like, yeah, I grew up with it. I've seen everything I've wanted to see and didn't want to see just in day-to-day life, which is funny how quickly you do become desensitized.
Yeah, I appreciate my porn. Well, maybe.
Well, I just remember when you're a kid, you lose a tape or you lose a magazine. 6 months later, you find it. That shit's like brand new again. Now it's like everything's right there. Everything's right there. I mean, if you really want to be one of those guys, you can just bookmark everything, all your favorite shits in one fucking folder on your address bar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when during my early access of the internet, I was like, I have to save everything.
I'm so glad my buddy was like, get rid of everything. Try to leave no trace. And I'm like, really? What are you looking at to where this is how you have to operate on the internet? He's like, it's safer. And I'm like, safer?
Well, there was that old couple in the news recently that the woman killed the husband because he was looking at porn or he had purchased porn. And I was like, he purchased it? Well, he was like 87 years old.
That's what I'm saying. Like, did he come home with a Penthouse Forum magazine or something? Where do you even get paper porn anymore?
Do you think your wife knows how to use a browser history? Like, you could have easily, even on your flip phone, you can get porn, right?
Man, that's got to be some fucking, first of all, talk about insecure. You've been together, obviously, for quite a while. You know what I'm saying? The spark has not only left, but it's been pissed on, buried 20,000 leagues under the sea.
Outside of circumstances where I guess porn would fit the medical definition of addictive, you know, when you're doing something in spite of clear consequences, right?
But if the consequences are you're married to a psycho who's going to shoot you in your dick for it.
No, reasonable consequences, like, you know, if you're calling off work so to stay home and masturbate, right?
Man,
like
I
that.
wish I was
like,
that good at masturbation.
If you're like compulsively doing it. Outside of that, isn't all this stress over porn just really about something else? About insecurity in the relationship, or an excuse to be mad because you don't love the person anymore and you need a good reason to break up with them because you haven't found the next dick to jump on yet?
I guess, and I'm not the right person to ask because all my friends.
I'm not either. We're jaded.
All my friends
We should do a relationship advice show.
Just have fun, live life, stay single. Boom, show's over with. No need to even keep going.
Every caller is like, is your hand broken? Well, you have alternatives, man. Just exercise them.
Google how to build a prison fee. You'll be all right. But no, every couple I know in my group of friends has porn. Mm-hmm. At least the ones that are open enough about it. You know what I'm saying?
Has porn?
Oh yeah, together.
Like has created their own.
No,
as a little
as
tape.
in they have had DVDs and shit and or VHS tapes if you want to go back far enough. It was, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's, to me, it's like, okay, so basically when you get in a relationship, you combine your porn fucking collection is what you do. It's like your record collection when you break up. Like, no Springsteen leaves this house, you know, no Jenna Jameson leaves this house.
Yeah.
Something like that. I couldn't imagine I was with one girl who was like very religious, and it was, you know, oh my God, every time she saw porn, and I was like, okay, first love, that's all I can say.
I guess I date innocent chicks.
Really? Wow. I don't do that.
Well, I think I've had one girlfriend that would admit to me that she had watched porn before and gotten off to it, and I think we watched a few videos together, but yeah, for the most part, wanted nothing to do with it or thought it was weird or gross in some way.
I've had, actually, now that I think about it,
No, that's fine.
I had one that was religious. That was her grounds for objection to it. And I had one who was jealous.
Yeah.
Who was very insecure. And I'm just like, okay, well, if that's the case, what do you do? There's nothing you're going to say.
Lie.
There's nothing you're going and you hide your shit very well.
Yeah. No, absolutely you lie.
Like, what was the old, not the new Chris Rock stand-up, but the old one, I think it was the one that came out right after Bring the Pain, where he was like, being married with children, you never get that good jerk anymore, that no one's home's jerk. Like, you get that paranoid jerk. You're like, what was that? It was a noise, you know?
It depends on what you're into, though. Sometimes the scared of getting caught jerk is better for some guys.
Well, I mean, if you're like, if you're like,
not by your kids.
Hey, it's been a while, honey. See
like,
what I'm doing? You want to come give me a hand with this? You know?
Yeah, I've tried that move.
It doesn't work when it's like the nude move. They go, I'm going to the bathroom. They come back and you're just butt naked, sprawled out on the couch. And you're like, did I miss a step here? Did we skip something?
See, as a guy, like, you always have to make those mistakes. Those mistakes that seem stupid but are easy enough to confuse because they're based on what you like, you know? I think it would be really hot if I walked in to the bedroom and my girlfriend was already going to town on herself.
That's called foreplay in most relationships, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, that's part of the package.
Most women aren't into that.
I don't know. The only time I had a woman I was in a relationship with get very, very defensive about it because she was open about the fact that, like, you know, oh yeah, I masturbate. And I'm like, okay. Saves me from getting carpal tunnel at a younger age, and I'm already going to get it from playing guitar. So that's cool. You know, no big deal. I don't care. In place of you, that doesn't mean that your job
is
No, what I'm
lessened in any
saying
way?
is, it's like she's
She grow a
comfortable.
tongue
She's
on her
comfortable
hand?
with that shit. You know what I'm saying? You remind me of my buddy who's like, if lesbians hate dick so much, why are all sex toys shaped like them? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. Why do you worry about this shit?
Because because it's still the shape of the inside of the
But I tried to explain to him. I said,
vagina.
I tried to explain to him. I said, how many lesbians do you know that you really want to get in the middle of that and be the meat in that sandwich? And he's like, well, in porn. I'm like, exactly. In porn, on TV, in the movies, that shit's not reality. Those women, that is not what your average couple looks like. Even people in porn the average couple don't look that good. If you've ever seen a sex tape you've tried to make of yourself, it is fucking horrifying. It is, you realize that there is a art to being filmed fucking and making it look even somewhat appealing. And most of us just don't have that, that gene in us to do that.
I made a decent one, but I managed to keep most of myself out of it.
Yeah, that's the one saving grace if you want to shoot point of view. But no, I had a girl who was very open about it. She never really made hid the fact or anything.
That's like every homemade porn that you find online now is like a nice point of view where the guy's like on top of the chick with the handy cam, strapped to his right hand, and then he wants to get into it. So he sets it on the tripod on the dresser, and it's just all asshole for the next 10 minutes. You're like,
this pale ass pistoning up and down. And bigger guys, don't do it because you're going to look like a polar bear. It's just all there is to it.
Right.
Most of us don't go tanning, so we're just going to look like a big old white polar bear.
Yeah, I should have figured this is what happens when I don't plan an episode. We end up talking about porn.
Oh, but what I was going to say, you can tell it's the Weedsman because this is the third time I've come back to it, and I've had to be like, did I say it? No, I didn't. Yeah, I walked in on her. She was had the shower head down and out, and she was sitting in a tub in a very, spread leg way. And I was like, I walked in the bathroom, and I did a double take, and I was like, I interrupt something? And she was like, no. I'm like, don't be like that. I don't care. I'm like, look, you're getting ready for work. You want to knock one out real quick. I'm going to come in here. I'm most of the time I'm no two pump chump. I get it. You want a quickie. It's fine. It's cool. I'm not upset.
No. As in, like, offering no explanation of, like, what she was doing, though? If you're a guy, you can be like, the spider crawled up my pant leg, right? You've got that.
With a rock hard dick. There was a spider.
I can't come up with, like, this is how I wash my asshole, maybe. How do you wash your asshole?
She walks in, you got your leg kicked up over your shoulder with the shower head on burst. Yeah, there you go. That's fun to explain. No, it's just, I don't know, whatever. I was like, I thought it was funny. And she's like, no, I would admit it if I was doing it. I'm like, well, then what were you doing? Because it looked like you either were finishing or starting, one of the two. I didn't catch you in the process of, but it was definitely on the way or had just left town. So what happened here?
Right.
And it's cool. I don't care. I swear to God, I'm not that guy.
That's like, witnessing a murder. Like, I didn't see him shoot him, but I saw him standing over the body with the gun smoking. So
I saw him arguing. I looked away. I heard a gunshot. I looked back, and the body was on the ground. I have no idea what happened in the middle, though. I'm a very poor eyewitness. Oh, Christ. Well, I was going to say, speaking of masturbation and something that maybe only you'll love.
Do you want to?
As in you yourself. You played the Venom trailer.
Yeah, I was just going to say we watched the Venom trailer earlier.
Okay. Oh, boy.
It's not getting any better, is it?
It's definitely in the I'm not going to the theater to see it.
Is this supposed to come out this year?
Yeah, October.
So this is it. This is the movie.
Afraid. Thank you for bringing us collectively to this.
Yeah, we've seen this, right? So there's like a crash.
Yeah, they're
That's how
sticking with the alien symbiote, but it's not from where it was in the comic book, obviously.
Right. Well, where was it even from?
Secret Wars.
Yeah, but where the fuck was he? That he caught an alien?
It had snuck into one of the Beyonders labs.
Yeah.
And was
so it
looking
could have
for
been
a-
from anywhere. It was just a
Yeah, it was
wandering
looking for a
space
host.
virus
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, okay.
Kind of like how we ran into the xenomorphs in Alien.
Wait, did Beyonder give him that black suit, Spidey?
No, Spider-Man was in there.
He just
I think,
found it.
I think
like,
he was
kind of like,
scouting or some shit like that.
it took a shine to him.
Yeah, it just hopped up on him, and he was like, "Oh, okay."
You suck. Whoever you are.
I work at the Life Foundation, and I need your help. We found something. We call them symbiotes.
And they're doing a lot of lead up to this, like, what's going to happen with this virus. We already know. We saw in the last trailer, he gets infected and he turns into, like, a rubbery, black, multi-toothed thing.
Something that looks like it might be at home in 1998 Spawn CGI.
You're not real. You were just in my head.
And by the way,
Mr. Drake's property.
I don't know.
What is with his voice?
exactly. Why is he
What
talking
is
like
it?
he's a wet brain Down syndrome victim or something?
Is he supposed to be kind of like a simpleton?
I mean, Eddie Brock was kind
Was he
of
the janitor? What was his job? What did he do?
Well, no, Eddie Brock was a journalist, wasn't he, or was he a photographer?
He was a rival of Peter Parker's.
Okay.
Are you willing to sacrifice?
Well, Tom Hardy is very capable of doing some goofy American accents. If you've seen his movie with James Gandolfini, his voice is along those
I
lines.
don't think I did. What was that?
Oh, shit. I can't remember.
What the hell are you? We are Venom.
It was one of those, for a minute, any crime movie that come out was based in Boston. You had, like, The Departed, Gone Baby Gone, The Town, Mystic River. And it was one of those, I think it was written by that group of writers. I cannot remember the name of the movie off the top of my head. But yeah, his voice in that movie was kind of, I can't do it justice, but I was like, what's wrong with his voice? Because he sounded fine as Mad Max. I mean, granted, it's not like has, a ton of exposition or monologues in Mad Max. You don't go see Mad Max for the long, like, Tarantino monologues between characters. You go to see some cool dystopian shit and some car chases and crashes. That's what you go for.
Yeah, Tom Hardy said that we're going to get more Mad Max
good.
movies.
I mean, that was I like that movie. I liked it. I know this is sacrilege to a lot of people. I mean, for me, it pretty much goes Thunderdome, Fury Road, Road Warrior, and then the original. I didn't really care for the original. The original was just too fucking strange for me. It's like, is this in the dystopian future? Because I'd seen the Road Warrior first.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, okay, so are these the same characters? Because why are they a police force? I thought it was like everybody for themselves.
So you're saying you're looking at Road Warrior as a prequel type of movie?
No. I saw the Road Warrior first, so that's how I thought the Mad Max universe was set up, to where it's like desperate people in the middle of Australian, badlands.
Oh, okay. So you saw the second movie first.
Yes. And so when I saw the first one on television, I was like, huh? How did they get to the Road Warrior? I felt like I missed a movie between that and the Road Warrior.
Yeah, I mean, if you follow it as like the second movie comes right after the first one, things fall apart quite quickly.
Goddamn quick. I mean, yeah, it goes.
Well, even if you put a decade in between those two movies, it's still rather quick to have all of society fall apart.
Exactly. Well, I mean, that's why I think I can't remember the writer and director's name. He's basically come out and he said,
George Miller,
thank you. He said that's why he hasn't ever really put an official order on the movies. They're just chapters in this character's life. I mean, obviously, if you watch Beyond Thunderdome, when he runs into the crazy helicopter pilot and his kid, he's like, you son of a bitch. He remembers him from the Road Warrior. So obviously that comes after the Road Warrior. But Fury Road could have happened before. Fury Road could be the movie between Mad Max and the Road Warrior.
Yeah.
I mean,
I never thought of it
know.
in that way, but you're absolutely right. Well, I mean, of course, Christopher, you're quoting the man who made the movies. How could it be wrong?
But then again, it was just, for some reason, the on the edge of, on the brink of civilization falling apart world created in the original Mad Max didn't appeal to me as much as the world created in the rest of the movies. I mean, if you're going to go out and destroy the world, let's really destroy the world. Let's not have remnants of police forces and shit and organized government forces, hanging on. I mean, I get that could be a cool story, but that wasn't really the story of the fucking movie.
Yeah, but I don't know. I thought that was pretty legit. I mean, the idea that you would, because it wasn't like it was a government-sanctioned police force, right? There was no government to speak of in that movie, in the second one.
I always took it like they were like U.S. Marshals for Australia, whatever the hell they are.
Yeah.
Like some sort of...
They were probably ex-military, used to be police, or maybe they're just, just big, tough guys who were suited for the job and got recruited. But I mean, who were, on whose behalf were they policing?
I mean, they had uniforms and they had a chain of command.
Sure. I mean, they had a structure, but that...
It could have been a paramilitary force put together by themselves.
But what
like
government or group of people do they report to?
That's what I'm saying. It could have been like that was the last area unaffected by the rest of the Mad Max universe as we know it. And they were trying to hold it off.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why it seems accurate to me, because those are going to be the last bastions of government, the ones that hold their power by brute force.
I mean, I guess, but once again, you have to remember, I saw The Road Warrior when I was like 6.
Right.
And I saw Mad Max when I'm like 9.
I think
so I wasn't thinking this deeply into it whatsoever.
No, I follow you. And I've watched Mad Max more recently. Well, when Fury Road came out, I went back and watched that. I don't think we watched Road Warrior. And yeah, it's kind of, I guess I'm pressing it because like I hadn't even thought of that myself. I don't know. Do they ever show anyone who's supposed to be a higher authority to the police? The police are just a force in and of themselves.
I do remember when was it Goose? I know Goose was in Top Gun, but was his partner Goose who got in a car accident and burned up?
Uh-huh.
That was the captain at the hospital that said don't go out and get revenge, and then he like went rogue. He took his police interceptor or whatever it was and just stole it and ran off and went after the gang one by one. So that was someone giving him a direct order that he disobeyed. So, I mean, like I said, if it's a paramilitary, the mafia has its own chain of command, and you step out of line in the mafia, you're going to suffer a fate worse than you step out of line in the U.S. military.
So it almost seems like even though you can't hold Mad Max directly responsible, he did kind of cause the apocalypse. I mean,
because he was like, fuck you, I'm going to get revenge.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe that's
I think if there's a message there, that's it. Because this is how systems fall apart when people stop believing in them, right? If Max had belief in the system, he would have listened to his captain and he wouldn't have gone after him, right?
You would think, yeah.
You would let the system take care of him, and he would take satisfaction that they would rot in jail, but he didn't have confidence that would happen. He had to take matters into his own hand. And when he and millions of other individuals around the world all do the same thing, then you no longer have any validity to that structure, to that system, that government that you put in place. And the whole thing falls apart, and you go back to just being tribes.
Pretty much.
And that's so. Yeah, I mean, I think there's more of a linear story in these movies than I originally gleaned from first watchings.
Well, that would also explain how come he seems to have this sense of like he needs to be penitent and he needs to be punished. Because if you notice, he never goes with anybody he saves.
Mm-hmm.
He saves them and he goes back to being isolated, and he ends up in these horrible situations because of it. And when I was younger, I took it to mean literally because he couldn't do anything to save his wife and his kid. And so this was him like kind of self-flagellating, like, this is...
Or protecting himself from that type of hurt. He's never been hurt when he had his family ripped from him like that. So if you don't get new family, you can't be hurt like that again. Yeah,
I mean, I could see it that way. I mean, that's the thing. one of the criticisms about the last Mad Max movie was that Tom Hardy grunted through most of it, didn't really have any lines, and I'm like,
he was pitch perfect in that movie.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Read a Judge Dredd comic.
Once again, Mad Max is not going to get up there and be like, to be or not to be. That's not what Mad Max is about.
Right.
That's not even what his character has ever been hinted to be about.
I think as far as his motivations for remaining isolated, I think there's good truth in both of our arguments for that. But I think overarching is a belief in a higher power somewhere in there. Because I feel like if he didn't feel like there was somebody that could judge him for his actions, then none of it would matter, right? And he would just use up people until he was done with them and then move on. But he's very much not wanting to start, because he feels like he ultimately, like there is some, maybe not just a God, but there's like a higher system of justice that's in play that will weigh his actions as to whether, so if he is repentant, is that how I would say it? Repenitent?
Yeah. Penitent, yeah.
Or if he is penitent, I don't know.
Humble before the Lord.
If he was, kind of putting himself through his own punishment, that kind of makes up for his failings in life, whatever those may be. If it's just losing his family, like not being able to defend them, what have you. There
is one other theory that I find interesting, but I don't buy into. But I think it's a very interesting theory, especially if you know the movies rather well. In The Road Warrior, there was the feral kid with the boomerang.
Yeah.
And it's implied that he's the one narrating but at the end of the movie, telling the story of Mad Max. Right. If you notice, at the end of The Road Warrior, at the end of Thunderdome, it's the people that he was with telling stories about him, passing those stories on.
Right.
And so the theory is that that's the original Mad Max. Mel Gibson's the original Mad Max. And then he becomes kind of an idea, like the Dread Pirate Roberts and A Princess Bride. And the feral kid grows up to take over the mantle of Mad Max, a.k.a. that's Tom Hardy. Hence, why he doesn't talk so much, why he grunts so much through the movie. Because that's what the feral kid did. It's like he didn't grow up using words as communication so much, so he just communicates through actions.
I like it. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
I mean, it's like one of those internet theories, like Pinky in the Brain, or Dexter's Laboratory grows up to be Dexter the serial killer. It's just fun to fuck with. But
that's interesting. Then you know what I should dig up for you is the series of one shots. I think there was a two-parter story that was done, but there are some origin stories of the characters from the last movie,
Fury Road,
that were done in comic book form, but under the I think he did the story outlines. I don't think he actually did the writing, like the dialogue, George Miller, for the comic book, but they were definitely his stories. Like, here's where Furiosa comes from. Here's more of her background.
Gotcha.
And they're pretty well done comics. DC put those out around the time that Fury Road came out.
Well, see, that was one of the interesting things I found out about The Dark Tower. Is the comic books, Stephen King handed an outline to Bev Vincent, who ended up being, I'm not sure if he was given writing credit on a lot of the comics. I think he was giving plotting credit as for plotting it out.
Yes.
And then the writers filled in the details with it.
Or sometimes they call it story by, and then written by, as in like the dialogue.
If the movie had gone as well as they were expecting, what they wanted to do was make the first movie, make 1 or 2 seasons of a television series, have the third movie, another 1 or 2 seasons of a television series, and have the final movie.
Yeah, I remember reading that originally, and that I don't know how long that lasted as a plan, but I was like, that's a bold move. I mean, I think it's the right time to do something like that, and if you do it right, it can be fantastic, but that's really bold.
Oh, the problem is they didn't do it right at all. But
right, they didn't have the balls to follow through on it.
Yeah, it was like, you could tell at the last minute, whoever was it, Sony, I think, to put that movie out, was like, let's leave it open for a sequel, but let's make it a one shot just in case.
What we
no
really
one likes
need
this.
is a Black John Wick who fights demons.
And I mean, I have to admit, they found a way to explain away Roland being a black man in this cycle of the Dark Tower.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the nature of the Dark Tower being a cycle, and every time he goes through the cycle, something changes a little bit. It's like he goes into the cycle of the next universe over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I will buy that because that lets you take out a lot of the parts of the series where it is explicitly described Roland is a white male who looks like Clint Eastwood. Period.
Yeah.
That's the description. I mean, that's what Eddie says. That's what Susanna says. Well, she says the Marshall from Gunsmoke, but same. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Same difference. I
mean, I get the point with shit like that, and I don't know. I don't want to get into the whole other debate like we got into on Unregimented about fans being upset about, recasting and stuff like that. A lot of this comes from recasting a white part for with a black actor or something like that. That gets people upset.
The thing is
is
that
is there anything about his character being white that adds to or helps shape that story in some way?
Yes. In book 2, when he pulls the drawing of the 3, he's pulling people from our world into his. First one he pulls is Eddie Dean. Eddie's an early 20-year-old junkie. Next one he pulls is Suzanne. Oh shit. Odetta Walker. Odetta Holmes / Detta Walker. She is
deep in this universe.
She lost her legs in an accident on the subway. She's in a wheelchair. She's also suffered a brain injury that split her personality. And one personality is of the upper class, comes from money, Odetta Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is the guttural, every bad stereotype you can imagine about an evil Southern black woman. You know what I'm saying?
I see.
And it's like
she's a stereotype.
These two extremes.
Side of her personality.
Exactly. And when, obviously, they pull her when Roland draws her into his world, him and Eddie, she's in a wheelchair and they're on a beach. So they're trying to push this wheelchair, and she would, she'd call Roland and Eddie honky motherfuckers and gray meat motherfuckers. Y'all sucking on your little white candles over there anytime they'd leave, and she would flip back and forth between personalities, so they never knew whether to fucking trust her or not. And I mean, it did play a very large part because, without giving away too much about it, by the end of the book, Roland finds a way to combine both of those personalities into one person, which is basically make her whole again. Which these tragedies that befell her as a child is what split her in the first place.
Well, there you go. I mean, just by the fact that if part of the story is going to be about race, I'm not saying that these books are about race, but the part that you're telling me about definitely plays a factor in the story. If you're going to tell those stories, then it's difficult to just flip the race. I shouldn't say flip, like you can only be black or white. But you get what I'm saying. It's just so often, though, that isn't it the case that it just doesn't matter?
For the most part. I mean, for the most part, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm trying to think of... I can't think of one that really irked me. The only reason Roland being cast by Idris Elba, who first of all I think is an amazing actor. If you know anything about me, I'm all about The Wire.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that motherfucker inhabited the persona of Stringer Bell to the point when I first heard him talk with his native accent, I was like, no, that's not Stringer Bell. That's not Stringer Bell. That's bullshit. He's putting on that accent.
I mean, that guy is good enough that you could cast him as a white teenage girl, and I'd be like, yeah, let's go. I'm going to believe this shit.
You're with Idris Elba the way Kevin Smith is with Ben Affleck. I'd cast him in as anything. I cast him as the shark in Jaws. I don't give a shit. I just love me some Ben Affleck. Every movie I go into, who should star in your movie? Ben Affleck. No, we're not having another Affleck Smith creation. Get out of here. But no, I can't really think of one. Now, I do know that there was a article that was misreported when they said that they were rebooting Spawn, and McFarlane said that in an interview, he said he wanted Brad Pitt.
He wanted Brad Pitt to play
Twitch.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
one of the two cops that are going after Spawn, but I don't even think they know they're going after Spawn until like pretty far into the series.
Yes.
And it was misreported they wanted him to play Spawn. And
Well,
I was irate because I was like, Al Simmons is not Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I think that's where it started from, was that I think it was reported that Brad Pitt was going to play a major role, or that some of the headlines were just Brad Pitt looking to be cast in Spawn
lead
movie.
in Spawn, yeah.
Not even lead. Like, you say Brad Pitt's going to be in a movie, you're thinking he's going to be the lead, right?
Unless it's Burn After Reading, yeah.
Well, right. No,
I
it's
just
true.
picture him
He
doing
does-
that stupid dance.
Some of his best parts are those
Floyd.
Floyd. Yeah.
Fucking condescend to me, man. I'll fucking kill you, man.
Yeah, I did get the letter, but Floyd smoked it. He gets some. What does he say? He says, "You going out? Get something and some cleaning products." I can't remember what I said.
Well, I like when
get some jerky and some cleaning products.
when the gangsters walk in, and he's like, and they knock on the door, and he's like, "Hey, what's up? Oh, come on in, man." And he has the little honey bear bong, and he's like, "You guys want to smoke?" And they rack the shotgun. He goes, "Oh, I guess not."
Yeah. Okay.
And he lives. He lives. He gets through unscathed. One of the few people in that movie.
Yeah.
It just-
But he lives by giving not one shit about anything except for, does he still have weed?
It was funny because when I was watching Jackie Brown with this girl for the first time that I'd been dating, and the scene got to Samuel L. Jackson's character telling Bridget Fonda, "Girl, you need to slow down on that weed. It's going to rob you of your ambition. You're just going to sit here and smoke all day." She goes, "What if my ambition is to sit here and smoke all day?" And this girl goes, "Hell yeah, girl." And I'm like, "Oh, you just earned date 2. All right."
Well, Tarantino films make good early date movies. I had a first date that was watching Pulp Fiction with a girl. Well, watch the first half of Pulp Fiction.
The date went that well, huh? Right around the time Christopher Walken's like, "So I hit it in the only place I could, my ass."
I'm sorry, I can't concentrate. I gotta shut this off.
No, I think like my litmus test is, well, nowadays everyone's seen Pulp Fiction. It's been parodied so much. But for the first couple of years after Pulp Fiction, it was to pop it in, and if they've said they've never seen it, watch it with them. And if they don't laugh when Travolta blows Marvin's head off in the car, then I'm like, this relationship probably might not work, because we just don't have the same sense of humor.
I mean,
Even my dad cracked the fuck up.
I would like to think, I think I gasped when his head was blowing off, but the immediate reaction from both of them made me start cracking up.
Oh shit, man, what the fuck? I think I shot Marvin, man. Ain't no fucking bombs. Just, dude, dying.
And it tells you so much about their characters, their reaction to it. Like, sure, it's a big deal. You know, it was an accident and it's fucked up and now they got to deal with it. But it's like about that, you know. It's about like me calling you up saying my car broke down, come pick me up. And you're like, motherfucker, now I got to get my car and go drive your ass to work.
It is 2 a.m, man. Come on.
You want me to roll through like McDonald's on the way there? That's the kind of hassle it was for them.
Which, I don't know. Tarantino has done a good job of writing characters that seem like they truly exist so much in that world that shit that would fucking turn our hair gray and give us PTSD is just like, it's another Tuesday. What are you going to do?
Well, okay, I didn't want to get off the Stephen King stuff, though, because I was going to ask you if you had watched any of Castle Rock yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
It's not, I haven't sat down and watched it on your streaming service yet, so.
We'll have to talk about that. I highly recommend it. It's certainly not a waste of time. You know, it might not be what everyone's expecting, but from the way it's set up in the first 3 first 3 episodes that dropped on Hulu, it is very much like a mashup. Well, it's one there that the title sequence, which doesn't even appear in the pilot episode. In the beginning of episode 2, you get the title sequence, and it's little newspaper clippings, right? Mm-hmm. And it's all this shit that happened in the town, right? And then not directly naming any characters, but you see like news clipping of rabid dog savages town and such and such mysteriously catches fire and
the happenings of Castle Rock over
right
years.
All of these stories from these books that everyone's familiar with, a lot of these that have been turned into movies, and they're just kind of cut up and scattered around, kind of falling through the frame, and that's kind of the perfect visual aid for what this story is. I don't think any of this is looking to tie together, like, this is the same person that was in this book and blah, blah, blah. I mean, Stephen King does plenty of that on his own. Like, characters will pop up in other books. This isn't the story that's going to draw all the lines between all the stories, like some, crazy person's board. What do they call it? When they tie the strings to it?
Yeah. Like evidence up. Board in a police station and shit.
Right. It's not that.
Yeah.
It is much more collage. It is much more like, here are the stories that everyone really knows that happened in this universe, and here's how we can kind of, cut them up and throw them at the wall and see how they stick together in interesting ways.
Well, apparently they just flat out came out and said that, because I guess it is getting a season 2. The response has been positive enough.
Yeah.
And they said it's going to be an anthology show. Every season is going to tell a different story in Castle Rock, maybe even in a different time period.
I think that's super smart.
Which,
because I've really enjoyed. Well, there's plenty of examples of that now with like American Horror Story, which I'm not a fan of, but is very popular. Fargo, I think, has done that very successfully. I think that's super smart. As much as they've got a great cast for this, but I really enjoy the gimmick of bringing actors who were in previous films, not reprising any roles, playing completely new roles. But, Sissy Spacek's a pretty major character. She plays the mother of the main character in this story. And there's plenty of other examples of who I can't think of off the top of my head, but I've seen them like, I remember you from that movie. And it works because it hits you all in the right places for like the Easter egg type of shit. Of like, oh yeah, I know what they're talking about, and maybe not everyone else does. But I'm like, I only get like the top layer of the egg, right? It's more like an Easter onion. I just get the top layer, and someone like you who has read more Stephen King than I've read plenty, but I'm sure you've read damn near twice as much as I have, and there's probably a lot of things that you're going to get that I'm not going to get. But even missing a lot of like it's not all nostalgia. It's not all referential, like, ooh, I know what they're talking about type of stuff. So far in 3 episodes, they managed to stitch together a really interesting story with compelling characters, which of course is going to make or break any show right there.
Well, yeah. It doesn't matter how many Easter eggs you have and how many nods to the, deep cut nods to the fans you have if the story sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, to be brutally honest, taking it back to the Dark Tower movie, there were more than a few nods to the Stephen King universe. There was a picture of the Overlook Hotel. There was a mention of Pennywise.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like, okay, that's cool, but I'm sorry, it's not enough to carry a movie. But the one thing that I think I'm lucky is when I started reading Stephen King, the first book I grabbed, I was 9, and I picked up Pet Sematary on sale at Wonderland Mall of all places, at the B. Daltons or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the next one I read was The Shining, then The Stand, and then I read the first two Dark Tower books. And by the second book, he started connecting every story he had written up to that point with the Dark Tower series. So in some way, you knew that this series was a common thread going through all his work.
Yeah.
And it hit me at just the right age where I was like 9, 10, where that was nerdy enough to where I started seeking it out and trying to find the connections between books myself, and
yep.
And then years later, when the internet come out, I went online and I found a website where someone basically did everything I'd done in my head, like mapped it out on a website. And I was
had
like,
the crazy person board with the lines drawn.
Exactly. It was exactly what you're saying. Yeah. And I was like, oh shit. Like, yeah. Oh, and there's a couple I didn't even think of, or this one, and then there was, because obviously there was only 2 books out when I started reading them. It's a 7-book series, and the end was 14 years in the future still. So, I mean, once I discovered forums online, it was insane amounts of theories. Just shit that was just outlandish to one that actually nailed exactly what was happening. And that was funny. It made me think that guy was like, damn, that guy needs to be a detective somewhere. That's some Bunk and McNulty. Fuck, and solve the whole crime in 5 minutes. Just saying fuck. That's some shit like that. Oh shit, what was, damn it.
Well, I was going to say
the other show that I was wanting to bring up.
Oh yeah, there's something else. Or we could move on to music. I didn't realize how long we had been talking already.
Yeah, I forget. This isn't unregimented. We don't freestyle for like 3.5 hours, do we? Yeah, so let's move on to music.
Well, you must have some. I know you've got a playlist that you like to listen to when you get high. I've heard some of these songs already.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular that you'd like to share with the class?
Like, I'm trying to think of like definitely like Gardenia by Caius, Marquee Moon by Television.
Pretty sure the Caius track's shorter. Isn't Marquee Moon like 10 minutes?
Yeah, but Gardenia's like 7.
Yeah, it's like I knew it was going to be close. But
I get into a lot of like R&B. Like I've been listening to a lot of Erykah Badu and stuff.
I guess let's start there. Do you tend to drift more to a certain style of music?
Definitely, I don't listen to any like first 3 album Metallica, Slayer,
like
Fear
serious
Factory.
Metal is like a buzzkill.
I'm not like into the whole, okay, now I want to listen to some blast beats. I'm high. I'm not coked out of my mind. I'm good on the blast beats. Thank you very much.
Right. So you like the down tempo in general. So it's not so much about whether it's electronic or guitar based or anything like that.
Well, I mean,
you prefer a female vocalist sometimes, maybe. Yeah.
But I go in spurts. I've been listening. Most of the R&B I've been listening to has been lately been like Jill Scott, Erykah Badu. I actually just got done with my
what's a good
Anita
Badu
Baker
track?
fucking period.
Oh my god!
I was listening to some Anita Baker like I was like in 1987, and the shit was still cool. Window Seat. That's a good Erykah Badu.
Don't even get me started on the Anita Baker shit. That's seriously like which one? Okay, I know everyone's heard this song, and it's like, this is a live version. This is official music video. But you know what? The big thing that I was going to talk about was the production value, and not that this is going to be a bad recording. There we go. Actually, this is not the best audio quality on this.
Well, it's coming off a VHS recording, a VH1 classic, for fuck's
sake.
Is
what it looks like.
But I will say this. Her outfit in that first video, the live one, my mom had so many outfits like that in the late 80s and early 90s. I think my mom actually styled herself after Anita Baker, including the short haircut.
Oh, really?
I honestly do. All
right. Bear with me here. I'm just going to go to my Google Music. Because if we're going to talk about how good these recordings sound, we got to hear how good these recordings sound.
Oh, shit. Oh, who's the homeboy I was telling you about that was on the treatment talking about? He doesn't like all these R&B songs because they're too clean.
I understand where he's coming from. And I mean, I guess that's a question of taste. That's the thing, like, I don't get people who claim to be into music and then they're like complaining because this recording sounds like this or that. I'm like, that's okay. If you're not into that, I can understand, like, I don't want to listen to that, or that doesn't strike a chord in me. But there's all different, like, production is an art style, right? And there's choices that are made in those rooms. Then you don't agree with those choices, that's fine. And if you don't want to listen to it, it's fine. But to criticize it as like you're not doing the music right, it seems ludicrous. Like you wrote the rules to the music and I didn't obey them, so now I'm too clean.
I guess, yeah. And I mean, I'm hesitant to take it down the rabbit hole that they ended up going down. But the Philadelphia sound was described. He described it as too clean, too sanitized, too white.
There you go.
And it was because of like strings, and he's like, that's not R&B. That's white people shit. And I'm like, okay, all right. I mean, what do you say to that? It's like, okay, dude, so I get what you're saying, because I'm not a big fan for the most part of really up-tempo, like jump happy blues. I'm just not. Like, there's a few, like Albert Collins, like he's got some cool up-tempo songs, like, you know, I Ain't Drunk, I'm Just Drinking, and they're fun party songs,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
But when I hear blues, I want to hear a motherfucker with some rusty straight razor about to kill this bitch did me wrong shit. You know what I'm saying? Like some Albert King, where it's just tension and tense and just there's a release at some point. Not just like, hey, happy to be alive, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'll go to church if I want to listen to that shit.
That's fine. Let's not call this R&B then. Call it what you want. This is a great pop song. I think, look, yes, it's got that dated production to it, the synthesizer
what decade
sounds.
was this made in?
There's no question about that. But it's a great recording.
No, I absolutely agree with you.
It's, for what it was intended to be, clean and spacious and open sounding, and sure, a lot of what we like about, if we're thinking about just R&B, there's a kind of raunchiness almost to it that seems missing here. If you want to think about it as like, you know, a small band playing in a dirty bar type of R&B or rock and roll, you know, but
see, I think she's got a quality.
But I love those 80s synth sounds too. I'm a sucker for them.
Speaking of, real quick, this is just a real quick story. We were tripping balls years ago, and Last Cup of Sorrow was playing. And when it gets to the part where, by Faith No More, and when it gets to the part where it's like dun dun, and then the chord just rings out, and the keyboard's playing the little twinkle sounds. It sounds exactly like Sonic picking up rings. And my buddy who's tripping balls go, is someone playing Sonic? I'm like, no, man, that's dude, that's the CD. And he's like, Sonic's on the CD? And I'm like, no, Sonic's not on the fucking CD. It's the goddamn, like, have you ever heard Faith No More? He's like, yeah, that What It Is song, or what is it? And I'm like, oh God, all right, whatever. But no, I absolutely am with you. But I think her voice has more in common with someone like Billie Holiday than she's ever been given proper credit for.
Yeah, and this is a case where you want to capture that voice as purely as possible. She doesn't need to be drenched in reverb. She doesn't need backup singers, or I'm trying to think. Does she even do a lot? Does she have a lot of backup singers?
I mean, I probably
she does
just
so much
harmonize.
like just kind of scatting and stuff like that to fill in. It's like thinking of Morrissey doesn't need it, or Robert Smith. They don't have backup singers. I mean, every once in a while the band will chime in, but they fill in that space plenty on their own.
Yeah. Well, you also, I mean,
La La. No.
You have to remember, this is getting on to be almost 40 years ago now that, you know, the song we're playing. I mean, it's at least 35 years old. It's got to be what?
The Anita Baker song? Yeah.
Mid-80s?
Oh, yeah. It was like 84.
Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, if you go back, I remember in 90, when I started playing guitar for like seriously playing guitar, one of the albums I listened to was Big Brother and the Holding Company. And I went back and listened to Ball and Chain. And if you listen to that fucking first note of that guitar, the beginning of that song, it is just literally an SG through a fucking Marshall, dimed out, screaming into it.
Yeah.
And like, I remember the guys in the guitar shop I worked with always would goof on me when I'd listen to a lot of the older stuff. They go, how can you listen to that, man? Listen to the production. That sounds like shit. And I'm like, dude, I'm listening to fucking Howlin' Wolf. How you gonna talk about Howlin' Wolf's production? You know what I'm saying? Like, motherfucker, what did they have back then? This is pre-Beatles, dipshit. You guys are so used to your Eventide harmonizer and being able to fucking do some Steve Vai shit, you know, with all your fucking digital rack effects, that you forgot what it's like to make music. And there was one guy, an older guy, and he goes, that's just primitive shit right there, man. That was cutting edge for them to do that back then.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's considered cliche.
Yeah.
Who the fuck plays an SG cranked through a fucking Marshall? AC/DC these days? That's it. And I'm like, yeah, but back then it was like, Clapton did it, and when everyone saw Clapton doing it, guy from Big Brother and the Holding Company, et cetera, you know, different people picked it up. But I mean, I can only take the 80s in so much. Like, sometimes it gets really bad, especially with the, like, the new wavy one-hit wonder type shit. I'm like,
I'm a sucker for it, yeah.
I can't handle, like, I can't handle that Nina Blackwood Saturday night.
But I love those synths.
wave.
Like, I listen to some of this shit now, and I'm trying to pick it apart. Like, that definitely is a Prodigy doing those string sounds in there, and that bass is probably a Jupiter or Juno series Roland. So yeah, there's part of just me being nerdy and picking it apart. But so I guess one side, music nerd, the other side, just a kid who grew up with those songs. The other side, nostalgia.
Yeah, and I mean,
and some of those are good songs. You just play them on an acoustic guitar, and it still is there. Then you still got a decent song.
I can't remember what was I? I got caught at work. I pulled up at work, and I didn't see that one of my fellow employees were out there, and they're like, "What in the fuck are you listening to?" And I'm like, "Dance Hall Days." And they're like, "What the fuck? Who is this?" And I'm like, "Well, I know it's not Oingo Boingo. I think it's Wang Chung." They're like, "Are you fucking with me right now? There's a band called Wang Chung. Isn't that racist as fuck?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute, I never thought of it that way."
Yeah, probably. This is my guilty pleasure when it comes to the 80s. This is the only band that I'd probably, from the 80s, that I would listen to an entire album and maybe skip over a couple tracks, but the rest of them are one-hit wonders. I own actually some of them are on vinyl, probably right over there. Whole Aha albums.
Everybody's got their band like that, where, case in point, I was talking about Living Colour at work the other day.
Yeah.
And someone was like, "Oh, in Living Colour, the old TV show?" No, the band. They're like, "Oh, they had that one song." I'm like, "They had a lot more than one song." I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. They've been around for 30 years. And they've been releasing albums the entire time. But, yeah. It's like, you can't explain it to someone who's not a fan of the entire band.
Well,
see, to me, that beginning of the song sounds like it needs to be on the Napoleon Dynamite soundtrack.
That's like so dramatic. Like, they're such a good. Did their fucking James Bond song? What was that one called?
I wasn't a big James Bond guy.
No.
Not View to a Kill. You're not getting them confused with Duran Duran.
No. It wasn't Duran Duran.
Which, by the way, I know my sister will never listen to this, but I just want it on record that I've said this. I have to apologize to my sister Brenda. Now that I've grown older and I actually would listen to a Duran Duran song on the radio, that bass player is getting it in those fucking songs, man.
Yeah.
That is not no Michael Anthony Ride the Root note shit. That is fucking... There's some talent there.
Let's see. What was their James Bond song? The Living Daylights. Oh,
see, that should tell you how long... That was like almost the 90s.
Yeah, that probably was. I would say it was 88, 89, I would guess.
It had to be 89. It came out summer Batman.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, look at the big brain on Brad. Let's see here.
It has to.
There's a whole way...
Or is it... No?
87.
The Living Daylights?
The Living Daylights came out in 87.
Which one came out in 89?
I don't know. Did they follow on up that soon after?
That was the Timothy Dalton
License
years.
to Kill came out in 89.
That's it. Okay.
Who did that song?
Fuck, I don't know. I just remember the Bond girl in there went on to go be on Law and Order.
Gladys Knight. In 89?
I guess they couldn't afford the pips too.
All right.
So is this getting to be that time?
I think that's it. I think that'll do it.
Time flies when you're having fun. This is a short show.
It's an hour. I think we got almost an hour there. We probably got an hour. Thanks for hanging in there with us with a little bit of a different show today with Rich and I.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
But we'll be back to our regular rhythm next week, myself and Chris, and maybe we'll have a guest. I know we've been teasing having some guests, but it's strangely difficult to get people to come over and smoke pot with us. Maybe it's not the pot thing. It's like we're gonna record you. Like,
I think it's more of when you record. If you think about it.
Okay. Yes. Hey, we're flexible now. Anyway. So, thanks for listening, and thanks for, if you like the show, tell somebody else about it if you think they dig it. And follow us on Instagram at the Weedsman Podcast and on Facebook. And until next week, stay high.
Later, guys.
If you like this show, please tell a friend. Please follow us on Twitter and like and share us on Facebook by searching for Christopher Media. You can subscribe to all ChristopherMedia.net shows for free on ChristopherMedia.net. Please make sure to rate and comment on all your favorite Christopher Media shows. Thank you in advance for supporting Christopher Media by clicking on the PayPal button and by clicking through to all the sponsors who support ChristopherMedia.net. Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net, and thank you for listening. Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
Look in your home. Look in your office. Look in your home office. Everywhere you turn, there's so much smart. At Capella University, we think education should be smart too. Our game-changing FlexPath format puts you in control of your master's degree, so you can learn how, when, and where you want. Smart, huh? Yeah, we think so too. So if you want to take the next step in your career, make Capella your first step. Visit capella.edu to learn more. Capella University. Don't just learn smarter.
Antes de tener mi cuenta de Chase Secure Banking, debía correr a la casa de cambio. Primer cargo. Luego, de nuevo a comprar giros postales para pagar servicios. 2 cargos más. Pero ahora, con Chase Secure Banking, puedo pagar servicios, cobrar cheques y enviar dinero, todo por un pequeño cargo mensual por servicio de $4.95.
Visita chase.com/Secure Banking para abrir tu cuenta sin depósito mínimo. Chase, logra más con lo que tienes.
Se aplican cargos por ATMs que no pertenecen a Chase. JP Morgan Chase Bank N.A. miembro de FDIC.